Hello Jassie, today is Monday. Now, I know we have a little hiatus and videos will come very soon to explain why. Consequently, this meant that technically we don't need to upload for a while, but I would like to appear in public as the better friend. So I have decided to complete this series. So welcome to the Love of My Life series volume 3. Should I be completing my paperwork? Yes. Should I be editing and organizing our videos and photos? Yes. Should I be filming this at midnight? Stop asking so many questions. Today's series is simply titled Girls, plus this random one guy in between, but mostly girls. This is around year 8 up until year 11 and coincides with my journey in exploring my sexuality. I acknowledge that these were not my girlfriends, but I do consider them romantic interests that affected me and my life. Number 1, Eloise O. For somebody who is supposed to be very important to me, I frankly do not remember much of this girl. She was an animation artist and she was my friend during netball sport. I know we talk a lot, and she was the one who introduced me to the concept of LGBTQIA+, and she brought me to the Breakfast Gay Club in school in year 9. Before that, I was oblivious to this concept, and the only time I heard the word gay in Vietnam was when my grandmother said it about her masseuse in a forbidden, taboo kind of way. I started to identify as queer, open, curious, and soon enough I realized I was bisexual. I don't think I had a crush on Eloise as much as I thought about her as a potential partner, because she opened my eyes about this wonderful place that helped me feel like myself. I've always been glad that we never got involved because we have absolutely nothing in common. And I think the reason why she didn't stick in my memories is because deep down I think my first crush was probably Aisha A in year 7, whose shoulder I loved resting on and who I thought was so beautiful. Or Holly P in year 8, whose hair I loved braiding and who I thought was so gorgeous. So in retrospect, Eloise will go behind Sam S. Number 2, Elena H. This happened in year 10. A suffering of mine that you poor friend had to suffer through. So I will try to keep it short. We met in the student counselor camp. She was a year 8 and I was a year 10. An age gap that was judged and critiqued and made fun of by many of my school peers. The first time I saw her as we were trying to sort everyone out into portfolios, I swore I had Cupid shot an arrow through my heart. It was love at first sight because she was drop dead gorgeous. She had these European features that are really Nordic. I mean, she was half European, so it made sense. She was just so pretty. I boldly approached her, suggested that she and her friends join our inclusivity portfolio. I flirted by obviously wearing all of my best Hawaiian shirt because I thought that was like the gayest thing ever. I walk her to her dorm every night. I climbed up to the top of this really high pole despite being shit scared because I wanted to impress her. I maneuvered correctly to be in all of her teams, in all of her activities. And at the end, I bravely asked for her number. Obviously, me being much older than her probably factored in why she said yes to the courting. You know, it's always so cool to be liked by an older person. Anyway, she was so out of my league that I just panicked. I freak out, I had great anxiety, and it wasn't her job to reassure me of her interest in me, but that was kind of what I needed. Anyway, I spiraled, I moved way too fast, I was super insecure, and if I was her, I would have kicked my ass much sooner. She was nice about it, but I was devastated. You know it, you were there for it, you went through all of my stages of grief. I talked to Charlie, I talked to Jade, I talked to anybody who would listen to my woes. Man, I don't know how to explain on screen how much I was affected by this event. I begged her to stay, I bargained, I despair, I got depressed, angry, sad, whatever. This thing lasted less than a month and I grieved greatly for about half a year. But on and off, really, until like the end of year 11. Honestly, this is someone who affected me way too much than she should, and who I think about way more than she deserved to be. I am but a passing glance to her, and she was anything but an unimportant thought to me. Sometimes I still seek out her face when her friends post online. A part of me cringes and shakes my head in disappointment and chastises me to stop. But I think it is so important to have loves like this. I need to feel this kind of emotion. I yearn to feel this passion again. I know it's not the entire build for a strong, stable, or long-lasting relationship, as will be shown in my discovery in the last part of this series. But I know that it's a beautiful thing to feel, and I look forward to having. For that alone, even when I don't want to flatter this gal, she was in many ways my first real love. And she will come before FAPSA. And I'm glad somebody takes his place, because it makes me uncomfortable just seeing him win anything. I know you have heard and read all of it, but you did say in the comment that you love the stories, so I'll just add a few. We had a date in Claremont Park where we just lied on the grass and doodled in drawings book. She held my hand at the bus stop and I thought I was going to melt. I went to her art exhibition after we broke up, and we actually worked cordially in the portfolio for the entire year despite my residual feelings. Number 3, Mani D. Okay, I did not uphold my promise to shorten Elena's stories. Let's see if I can uphold it here. Mani, I met somewhere, possibly the gay club. He was a year older than me, which factored in why I was so keen on the prospect of being courted. He was also bisexual, which I felt like he was my people and increased that connection. He brought me to his house and I met his family and he met my mother, and so you'd think it was serious. But he had a lot of mental issues and I knew that I just wasn't the right person for him. I guess I wasn't ready for that sort of responsibility and I didn't want to let him down. I think the truth was that I liked that he liked me. And while that was really flattering, I learned from Lucas F that it just doesn't work like that. He was nice to me. I heard that later on he wasn't very nice to other people, but that doesn't really factor in why I put him behind Eloise. It was just simply because he didn't affect me much, especially not after Elena. Number 4, Charlotte R. By the time I had a crush on Charlotte, I was somewhat moving on from Elena. I think if Elena gave me a jolt in physical attraction, Charlotte really attracted me through her artistic knowledge, which, as you know, that pattern does repeat. She was in our lunch group. She was shy, antisocial, and almost invisible. But one day I saw her reading a book about either Greek mythology or witches or poetry or death, and I just jumped at the opportunity to talk about it. I love bringing people who don't talk into the conversation because I hate seeing people being left out. The conversation just jumped from one form of literature to another, from topics to topics, and we were just really getting along. She allowed me to read her poetry, which was a vulnerability that made me love her so much. At the end, we exchanged emails to write more poems to each other and talk about Greek mythology. I read back on some of the emails and I am honestly smitten by us just reading about it. She was openly a lesbian and she introduced me to sapphic poetry. She was in constant family turmoil though and internal problems, and with her closed-off personality, I think it was a struggle to reply back to me as enthusiastically and frequently as I did to her. Nonetheless, I was just so ecstatic about the notion that somebody could interact with me in an art form that goes beyond casual and informal conversation. Just like how I figured out I was bisexual, this new world just bring out such curiosity and crazy unknown with so much comfort and joy simultaneously. I remember trying to memorize Robert Herrick's To the Virgins to make much of time just to impress her. We went on one hangout slash date to the library and the secondhand bookstore, and she told me all about her family. It almost was like a trauma dump just because of how traumatic it is. She was really struggling mentally and physically. And if I couldn't see myself with money, I just was so uncertain that I could offer a stable and safe haven for Charlotte. So I just gradually stopped talking and pursuing her, which, as slow as it was a quick snap from lying on her lap reading poetry and always seeking her company to sitting across the circle. I remember Annapurna once tried to blackmail me by saying she would tell Charlotte, who was sitting right in front of me, that I liked her. And I decided to pull a power move and admit it first. I said, "So what? I used to like Charlotte. What are you gonna do about that?" And I heard her faint, "I still like you." And I chose to ignore it because I was just too scared to respond. I do regret how I sort of pushed her away without much of an explanation. I wasn't a very good person back then. Well, no, I was a good person. I just was not taught about how to appropriately respond to emotion and express them healthily. I had extremely high expectations of people. I fell so quickly, deeply, and ardently, and passionately for the image of somebody. And when it fades off, I move on, disregarding their emotions and beings, which have very much been dependent on and affected by effectively my love bombing and my adoration. Despite my guilt though, I really can't put her above anybody but money. She was a wonderful break from my devastating fall, but she was just another love interest. So no matter how temporarily artistically fulfilling it is. So there you go, a really lengthy explanation of my love life that nobody is interested. But this is like a therapeutic diary as much as it is a letter update to you. And I feel good talking about it. So I will see you on Friday, Jassie.